Here we go. We're back for our final part 4 of the Basics to Becoming an Elk Hunter series. If you're looking to hunt elk for the first time, or even if you've hunted elk and you've been feeling overwhelmed with all the information out there, the goal of this series is to keep it as simple as possible. It's been a fun ride from gear to camping and calling and all the tactics. Up next, we finish out with aspects of closing the deal, from shot focus to reading body language of the animals, and then the basics of being ready for success. After the shot, tracking, breaking them down, and packing them out, all simplified. So my friends, pull up a chair, adjust your volumes just right, and welcome to Blue Collar Elk Hunting.
Welcome to Blue Collar Elk Hunting, brought to you by ElkBros.com, with your host Gilbert Ornelas and elk hunting coach Joe Gillia. You want to hunt elk, and they live to hunt elk. Their goal is to share with you what they have learned grinding it out for over 35 seasons, doing what they love. So come on into camp and set a spell. Welcome to Blue Collar Elk Hunters.
Hello there, everyone. If it's your first time with us, glad to have you. Hope you enjoy our show. And as always, for those blue collar hunters following our show and grinding it out with us every week, pull up a chair and welcome back to Elk Camp. I'm Gilbert Ornelas, the host of your show, coming to you from Spring, Texas, and joining me tonight's crew, we've got the Gila Ridge runner himself, Mr. Eric Aragon, one of our awesome ElkBros elk hunting coaches, and we've got, that's right, we've got the boys from Cimarron, they're fresh off of a big hog hunting trip over here in the Lone Star State and Oklahoma. We got WWJGD and the Ninja, Leroy Chavez in the house. What's up, fellas?
Only one of the Cimarron boys made it.
That's true. Chav, are you feeling better, buddy?
Yeah, I'm feeling a lot better.
Did you have the crud, man?
Yeah, I think my allergies turned into a cold of some kind. I'm over it now. So.
Well, we missed you terribly.
Bad timing.
He was faking it. He did not want he did not want to lose 1 week of that competition we got going on with
our working out
with our Canadian boys.
Yeah. You guys gained about 6 to 10. He lost about 6 to 10. So
no doubt, man. Especially with the mafia cooking for you.
Oh man!
Yeah, but you know what? I thought I smelled bacon when I got on this call earlier. So that explains what's going on.
It happened.
I thought I smelled some hog, baby.
Well, Chav, I want to tell you, man, we missed you. But I told Joe, I said, tell Chav he can be sick in camp versus being sick at home. It's the same sick, man. Tell him to come on, man. We missed you, brother. That's for sure. But the drought is over for Mr. Gillia and the Texas swine or Oklahoma swine. They come back and forth across that Red River. So, I mean, they could be Texas swine or Oklahoma swine, but he got it done, man. We're so proud of him. I shot a little blurb on my way home, man, kind of really talking about failure points and stuff like that. I'm sure Joe will probably put it in the academy or something along those lines, but it was so fun to watch him actually go through the motions of shooting. And look, I'm telling you, I watched him all week. I watched him, belabor some things, and then we kind of got together there on that last afternoon, and Joe put it all together, and I saw a few things in his shooting form that maybe we could shore up a little bit. And listen, man, dude is the best closer. I've learned from some of the best, but Joe is the best closer in the world when he gets around a critter. And he actually called in a critter close to him and then sealed the deal at 15 yards, Joe?
12, about 12 yards.
Yeah, 12. Yeah. So, and then put him down. I mean, old poor piggy died in a big creek bed, man, full of water and everything. So he was floating. He got tenderized and pulverized all in one whack, man.
You didn't have to buy a new blind.
No,
for the last round?
Dude, I was
he wouldn't go in the blind.
I was stalking, dude. I was stalking.
That's the way to do it.
And
Nice.
so get this though, and I want, because I know Luis is going to watch this, and Luis gives me heck. He threw up this video of this guy. I've been re-strengthening. I went with Mountain Physio, with Doc over there, and he got me straight. And I mean, I tell you what, my draw is the best form I've ever had in my life. And we did. Luis and I did a stalk. We were stalking pigs, and then as it's getting dark, we went and jumped into a blind, because that's your best opportunity at that point in time, And first thing Luis does is like, all right, dude, you better check to make sure that you can draw, So, yeah, I put that thing up and cranked that puppy back, man. He's like, all right, okay, we're good to go. And, I really wanted to talk a little bit about that pig hunt because, I imagine people listening to that, they hear us talk about that and they're like, well, what does a hog hunt have to do with hunting elk?
A lot.
And I just want to, and you guys can throw in some other things, but here's the way I see it. When I was stalking, it was myself and it was Manano together. And Manano is just a fantastic hunter. I mean, he's been hunting these pigs forever. And I had actually done a walkabout on the property. We had a big rainstorm the day before, and I did a walkabout. And the reason was I wanted to check the area to look for tracks, just like I would, exactly what I would do if I was elk hunting, man. Identify using that fresh rain where those fresh tracks are and where these animals are moving to, right? So I did that all that morning, and there was one location only on that place that I really found fresh track and stuff tore up. Everything else had stayed bedded. So I told the dudes, I was like, just like these elk, man, if they're staying bedded all this time, it is going to be busy this evening, right?
Yep.
So me and Manano head out, and he's like, Joe, he said, well, he didn't say that. He's like, Joe, that's the bit, so he's like, you got to go over. He said, that's where, man, we can stalk through there. And they just like to bed in this thick stuff. And so we drop down into this creek and we start coming up the other side, just like going up a ridge on the other side. It's thick as heck. There's big old brush piles and stuff, but a lot of trees, a lot of cover, perfect place for these pigs to bed down and to stay cool. Right. And he's like, they love to bed in this stuff, man, and they'll stay there till, and they'll bust out. Well, Manano's 20 yards ahead of me, and he goes up, and sure enough, 2 boars bust out on him over on the side in this one place. So we got pigs already, right? We're already seeing them. Well, but I told him, I was like, dude, you better let me go first, because if they're going to pop out, he had a shot on him if he'd have had a bow, but he was carrying a rifle just in case he needed some backup for something. Plus, I had some snake visitors the day before, some big old moccasins that I took a picture of and kind of freaked him out a little bit. So he wanted something just in case. Well, as we start going, and we are just moving like smoke through this stuff, right? And you're checking out the thick areas that they bed down in. And I have another pig spots us and goes out and busts out on that. So, man, we're like, crap, man, there's another one. So he's like, up on top, let's move up. And we get up there and we kind of go up just like you would on a ridge on a little bench. And we get up there and he points out 3 areas. He's like, man, they're big old clumps. He says, they love those spots right there. Well, this is where the elk hunting part came in, and I'll tell you why here in a second. But as we're doing it, man, we're searching these things with our eyes and trying to spot those pigs bedded in there. Well, as I get close to the first one, and I mean, we hadn't looked at it, buddy, but as soon as I did, we hear something bust out on the side, and it goes on the other side, and it goes. It just blows, it just snorts at me from the other side. Now, we have the wind, of course, hunting like we do, just like we would for hunting elk. We got the wind in our face, and the sun was not at our back because of the way the whole ridge was situated. So it was hard for us to see the pig through the thick stuff with the sun, but it snorts at me on that other side. So at this point, I'm like, look, either we try something or that pig goes away. right? Just the same thing I would do if I was elk hunting. You consider your odds and your options. We can 100% not get that animal just by letting it walk away, or we can try something and create an opportunity. Well, when that pig snorted at me, in my mind, it was no different than an elk barking or bark chuckling at me. It was kind of like a deer does, when they try to get you to move, right? Or an antelope does when they're trying to get, they'll do that at you, right? So in my mind, I was like, oh man, it doesn't know what I am. So I just snorted right back at it. Just exactly the way it did at me. And the doggone pig stops and looks our way. Now, the funny thing is, Manano's behind me, who's been hunting these pigs forever, and he had his phone out and he was going to video what was going on. And as soon as I blew at that pig, he went, "Ooh, it's over." He starts putting his phone in his pocket. Joe just blew it. What is he doing, man? Yeah. Like that? The pig dude starts coming back to me, right? Yeah. He starts coming and she comes. It's a big old sow. She starts coming, and Manano goes, "Bro, it's there." And I'm like, "I see it, man. I could see the tufts, barely the fur in the sunlight, right?" So, but it's standing there looking at us. And I'm like, well, I walked 3 or 4 yards when I blew at it the first time. I do it again. Here it comes. It just keeps coming, just like that. Stops, not in my window, right? So I'm like, I still need it to move. So I do it one more time, throwing it off into a direction, and here it comes, just like that. As soon as it's going, we are in this thick stuff, and I'm actually going to show the video on this sometime. We're in this thick stuff, and I barely have these little tiny windows through it, and as that pig's coming, it's getting ready to hit there. So I come back in that thick stuff, and I draw back, and as soon as that pig steps into that spot, I blow it out again. It stops. It's frontal to me, directly at. And what's so cool is I'm using that Easy V. Everything's locked in place. I'm looking at my spot, waiting. The pig turns a little bit quarter and giving me that front shoulder, and boom. And I mean, all you can hear is, and I mean, it goes from front, it sticks out the back about that far.
From the rooter to the tutor.
And that pig, it turns and hauls. Now it's a steep downhill, so it's running down the hill, hits the creek at the bottom, and just dies in the creek. And I mean, the whole, there's so many different things that happen in that scenario. The way that we were using the ridge, the way that we were finding those benches on the side that they were bedding in, the way that we were using the wind, and the way that I had something, I could either just let it walk out of my life, or I could try something. Right? So,
that's it.
Yeah. So that's basically, and look, for all y'all listening, man, I see so many people that when an elk's coming in on them and going by, they don't want to draw because they're afraid they're going to spook the animal, or they don't want to call, to try to bring it in. They're worried that their calling is not good enough. Well, look, if you don't do and try some of these things, you're not going to create opportunities. If you don't draw in an animal walking by, you're guaranteeing that animal to walk out of your life.
Gotta draw.
It's just about odds, man. So I tell you, the arrow that I used was one of the arrows that Luis has made for me. I also had the DCA vanes, the new DCA sabers on that. And Manano's like, he sees what happened, that hole in that animal, said, "What the heck were you shooting?" And it was my Wasp 125 SSTs, man, those big hammers that I used. And I mean, the arrow, that arrow just, the energy behind it was amazing, because these pigs are so tough, man. And it's a great thing to practice on, and I'll tell you this, like RC was out there, and both RC and I, were going through this kind of the same journey. And what Gil is talking about is, for me, the toughest part has been making sure that my anchor, because when you're
Duplicatable.
instinctive and you're always pulling to your nose, it's always the same place, man, always. And now that I'm, trying to find that spot, that sweet spot that feels so good. When I was there was one thing that Gil noticed, and it's something that can get solved with a peep, but I really want to keep it as simple as possible and don't want to do a peep. So I have just the kisser and just a nose button on there. But one thing I was doing was I was letting my string, my string on my bow, or my bow was canting a little bit one way or the other. And that was changing how it was coming out for me. And as soon as Gil said something about that, he was like, bro, check out your bubble for a second, which I don't like to do because, again, it's something complicated. But as soon as he said that and I was there, I just turned till I saw my string lined up with my bow. That was all I did, to make sure it was the same. And I mean, all of a sudden, things are just popping.
He went from groups like that to groups like that, man. I mean, it was like daylight and
It's a great
dark.
reminder.
Yeah, daylight and dark. And I mean, we all have to have that confidence when we go into woods. If we don't have that confidence, a lot of that analysis by paralysis by analysis, we will 100% lock up in that moment of truth because we're not 100% confident about what we're going to do, So I felt like that just gave Joe even more confidence to go out there
absolutely.
and knock it out, right? Because look, I mean, RC's been the same way, up and down with that dadgum sight and, this, that, and other. And, he had a couple things go wrong for him. We saw pigs every day, every evening, every morning. And I mean, he had
it was a target-rich environment for sure.
He had a couple of things go wrong for him that were controllable by ourselves, right? Mm-hmm. And you guys will hear about that on some podcasts or even in our academy on the failure points, man.
Right.
I talk about the two biggest ones. Were number one, drawing your bow, and then having your bow silent. And RC had just one little part of his rest that was really loud and noisy, and we fixed it. And man, it was no problem with him getting critters to draw back on.
Yeah.
But in the first one he drew back on, it sounded like a violin made an evil hiss, right? Yeah, like the devil went down to Georgia, and that bow made an evil hiss, son. It went, and man, them pigs blew up like somebody dropped a bomb in the middle of them, man. They didn't know which way to run, so they tried to run right at the blind, and it freaked us all out. But and then I ended up killing one of the biggest hogs I've killed with a rifle. I mean, an absolute toad.
209 pounds, man. I mean,
209 or 10 pounds. I mean, It was an absolute toad. And I wanted the guys to go back home with some meat. So I always bring my spoke pole, and I say this all the time, just kidding with all of them, that bows are for hunting, rifles are for killing. And Joe got it done. And I sent him home with a little bit more meat too. So Chav, you ought to be able to get some bacon from Joe for sure.
Joe brought home the bacon, baby.
Yeah. So that was awesome, man. And all of us, we got together to have our meeting, discuss so many things. We're working on ElkBros Corp and everything that we're doing there. A lot of cool stuff. We got to talk about the cool things going on right now and continue our planning for, we got the coached hunts that
coming up. Yep.
Are currently, we have only 2 spots on our coached hunts right now. So whoever gets those will be hunting with us in late September here in New Mexico. If you don't know what that's about, go to elkbros.com/hunt and check it out. But it is a completely different deal. For the price of what most people are paying for a tag, you're getting an ElkBros coach. You're getting 2 months of coaching prior to boots on the ground. You're getting so much education that it's unbelievable. And you get to apply that with us, actually with you in the field. So that's an incredible opportunity. And then we've got our giveaway. And the giveaway, me and Eric were talking about this before.
Gil wasn't in on it, but today's my last show, Gil. I'm resigning from the ElkBros because you guys on the last podcast had all the prize packages, and I'm like, you know what, man? I'm quitting. I'm not.
I'm
that way
quitting. I
can
want to
apply.
be in on that. Huh?
I want to be in on that trailer, man. It's got my name on it. So when I
That's
called
pretty
Joe,
cool.
I said, "Yeah, I think I'm going to resign, dude, because I can't draw. I got to draw for this thing."
Well, and
Yeah. And whoever's listening to the show, you need to get in on this thing. Go to the website. Just look at all the price packages. That's a deal of a lifetime right there, man. It's
Looking, the odds are
unbelievable.
better than any New Mexico draw odds, man. It really
By
is.
far.
well,
Far.
and we were talking about that, and I'm not scared to say, man. You know, Eric was asking me, he's like, dude, man, what are like 6,000 entries, 10,000 entries? And I'm like, no, dude, there's 40 right now. We're 2 weeks in. We have 40 entries, and in that amount is a 28,000. I have 26,000. It's a $28,000 overland camper that our buddy Steve Harrell over at Drifter Trailers out of Springfield, Georgia. Yeah, Steve, man, I tell you, I talked to him, and what an incredible human being this guy is, who loves the value of what we're doing for education for people. And here's the trailer. If you've got YouTube, if you don't, you can go and look at it right here, what this looks like. It is just incredible. And, I'm not able to say enough about Steve. And,
no, man, for sure.
And for them partnering with us to do this, it's unbelievable. And you know what? When he made that camper, he said, look, I'm doing an ElkBros edition. You guys can have it for the ElkBros, or you can put it in your giveaway. And we were like, look, this is about our grinders. This is an opportunity for people out there that might not, for $75. For $75, you have the opportunity not only to win this, but you've seen the prize package, man. Yeah. There are thousands of dollars of gear inside this. And that's not even to say that you're going to win an elk hunt. You're going to get a unit-wide tag. You're going to get months of education with our success squad. You're going to come into our camp. You're going to hunt. We're going to be your coach. We're going to help you out. We're going to help you change that learning curve, because our goal is to make you a solid, successful, confident DIY hunter. And here's the one thing that really makes me proud is the 4 guys, Tom, Mike, we had Larry, we had Adam, and the 4 guys that came in camp last year, incredible human beings, right?
They were. Yep.
All 4 guys are out. They've already got everything set up. They're out hunting together again this year.
That's too cool.
Awesome.
That's pretty cool.
They're excited. They've been contacting us, and that makes me so proud that fire is lit like that, and that passion is there, and they're just feeling confident, and they're going to go out there on their own. They're going to get that done. So
you're just making it so much harder for me. And not only the trailer, but now I want to hunt with the ElkBros, dude.
Man, it was such a privilege to hunt. It was such a privilege to hunt with those guys. Today I was up in Longview, going and seeing customers, Longview, Texas, and I met with a guy named Graham Thompson. He didn't know anything about our podcast, but he loves elk hunting, he loves bow hunting. So we talked about it, and then he wanted to say, well, what's the difference between a coached hunt and a guided hunt? And I told him, and he goes, dude, there's nobody doing that, And I'm like, for sure. Mm-hmm. I said, and that's the way, I said, look, you can give a man a fish and feed him for a day, but you don't teach a man to fish, and he can feed his family for his life, Yep. And he was like, it makes so much sense. So there's a lot of traction around this, man. Again, Joe just said there's 40 some odd entries. I mean, you're going to win one out of, right now it's 1 out of 40, right?
1 out of 40.
So, there's no odds like that in the country on any draw. So our grinders need to get in the middle of that and knock it out of the park, because it's definitely going to be an awesome experience. It was last year. Big O and the crew plan on being there. So I can't wait. It's going to be awesome.
Now, I to be transparent on that, I am lying a little bit, not intentionally, because some of those people have also gone into our store And if you buy a gift card for an academy for somebody else, or if you spend $50 in our store, for every $50 you get an additional entry.
Gotcha.
So we have some people that have gotten some multiple entries inside there. And what's so cool about that is you're not just putting money in that is going to disappear. You're coming out with stuff. You're coming out with, you put that $75, you're getting our course. You're getting an incredible education that you might be spending anyways. Just to get that. And here's an opportunity in doing that to win this camper, to win that we've got initial ascent pack there. We've got a ticket to Dan Staten's L-shaped camp. We've got hit or misses put in a compound bow in there. And for our second place, we have a Texas hog hunt down with the ElkBros in South Texas as well. And I mean and you just got to come to camp, man. They're taking care of you, food, lodging, everything, man.
Everything.
Yeah.
Bring you something to bring your hog meat in, or we'll discard them. Either way, if you want to eat them, we feed them really well, so they taste really good. But a lot of guys don't want to mess with them, but they're an epidemic for us. So, yeah, I mean, absolutely, we can't wait to have somebody win that trip and come hang out with us. It'd be me and the Mafia, and hopefully we can get Joe and the crew to come on down and enjoy some South Texas fun.
And if you're listening,
bring your earplugs for Manano.
Yeah, he's a professional snorer, man. So
yeah,
and
we'll
if
put
you
him
listen,
at the other end of the trailer, man.
If those folks listening think that this is a sell job that I'm trying to give, you're absolutely correct. It is, because I do not want anybody to miss out on the opportunity for some of these things. And for the return on the investment is out
Sick.
it's out the roof, man.
Yeah,
So
you can't lose.
Yep. There is no way you're not going to lose, man. So let's
Eric, how about you lead us off on our ElkBros Mailbox, brother?
Yeah, I'm ready to do that. Let me kick this one off. So, got a question in this week from Scott Hamilton.
Well, now wait a second. Question. When I saw that Scott Hamilton, I'm like, is that the ice skating? Is that the... No. I'm just, hey, I mean, you never know.
Could be. Here's an interesting question. So it says, I have a question that's never been talked about on your show. It says, I'm a hound hunter that pursues bear, and I noticed a couple of the over-the-counter zones open the same day as elk season starts. How does this affect the elk, and if it does affect them at all? I don't know where you're hunting at. I know just in New Mexico during the archery hunts, so from September 1st to the 24th, you can buy a bear tag, but you're not allowed to use dogs. You can use them prior. There's a season starts in late August. It ends like August 31st, and then after that. But I would
remember there was some years ago when you could use dogs during that time.
Yeah, and I actually had so all that changed. So there was one year I was hunting, me and my buddy, and we were chasing elk, and next thing I know, man, I hear these dogs just going nuts, and sure enough, up the canyon, up ahead of us, we see that, but they were chasing mountain lion with them. They weren't actually chasing bear.
Right.
But man, that's a lot of noise. And then I've actually had people out in the hunting area, up in the wilderness where I was hunting, because there's a lookout, and there was some guy up there, and he had his dog, and his dog is running around barking. It just makes a lot of noise. I would say it would affect it. But it's nothing. I mean, if I was a guy hunting with my dogs during an archery elk hunt, I wouldn't be bringing them in there at that time, just for a courtesy of the hunters. I think it has an effect, but I don't have experience other than that. I don't know what you guys have had in the past. So,
well, there was so at one time there was hound hunting during that first archery, and it became problematic, so much so that they changed it, right? And
makes sense.
And I don't know, I really don't know if it was as problematic. I don't know how much it actually affected an animal that somebody had in front of me. I'm sure, man, if you have an elk and it's coming in, all of a sudden dogs start barking coming through the area, that animal's going to shut up and that animal's going to move. But I think it also, as hunters, we're real good at justifying our failure on anything around us as well. And as soon as you're not seeing anything, the first thing, if there's dogs that's in the air, first thing people are going to do is friggin' dogs are in the area, or those people are running around on four-wheelers over there, or they're going to find reasons to kind of justify how things are. Now, could it be the case? Possibly, right? Sure. That could possibly be the case. And I know of people that it's happened in different ways. I mean, I know of people that have been calling an animal in and had a four-wheeler go by and spook them out. I know guys that have been working elk inside a meadow and had somebody pull a four-wheel drive truck right through the middle of it and blow everything out, right? Yeah. So there's a lot of distractions out there, and I think that when you mix that situation, it just is it's just an equation for a problem, right? It's just I just don't think people are going to not be happy one way or the other.
No doubt. I know when I'm in the woods deer hunting, man, and guys run dogs for hogs or whatever, it's a bad deal, man. Those deer don't like it. They vacate the country. Will they come back? Yeah, but not today. It might be a couple days before they feel confident about being in that area. And look, the dogs aren't necessarily running deer. They're running hogs or whatever else. And there definitely needs to be a time for guys that have hounds that want to do that. But I think New Mexico's done a good job of giving them days where they can go do it and coexist, in Texas as well, right? Most of Texas ain't public land, so it's mostly private. And, not a lot you can do on private ground, but on public land, say in the national forests and stuff, it's tough, man. I mean, you got to deal with, whether it's dog hunters or drivers or whatever's going on, you got to deal with that. So, not easy, but definitely.
Well, you bring up a good point.
As long as it's legal, I mean, ain't much you can do about it.
No, and you bring up a good point, man. I've been in situations where I'm stalking, or trying to call elk, and there are people that like to drive animals to a certain area. Yeah. That's their technique, and it ends up shaking up everything in the area. Sure. But I also want to add that this kind of a catch-22 in a way that dogs are a very effective way of hunting bear, lions, right? They're very effective. And anytime that we're hunting bear, we are actually helping out the elk population as well.
For sure.
So that's something to think about. Now, but I can even go into Colorado, and if I had to choose between dogs running bear and muzzle loaders out in the woods,
it's a no-brainer.
Running bear.
I think I'm going to pick the dogs, man. So,
but I think the states have figured this out, Joe. I think they've kept it out of where you're going to be in the same time or OTC zones. Maybe not in Colorado, but surely New Mexico's figured it out. Yeah. Like Eric said, there's a time where you can use dogs and a time where you can't.
Yeah, they try to do it early here,
Yeah. And I think that's what most states need to do.
Yeah. Yeah, it needs to be at a point where, but there are so many seasons, there's so many seasons that are back to back, and so many seasons that, if it's not the elk season, it's running dogs during the deer season, or, you know what I'm saying? So, some of it's always going to conflict. I think the most important thing to remember is if you have a problem with it, do it the right way through the right channels when people ask questions, and give your opinions and
talk it out.
Facts and stuff. And we need to treat each other with respect out there. And, to those people that are running dogs, that's a lot of work. There's a lot of time, a lot of training. Those people put a lot of time into doing what they do. And
they're passionate about it too.
Very passionate about it. Yeah.
I got a really good
Absolutely.
friend of mine, Pat Lewing, and they big time dog hunters, love to chase hogs and
Mhm.
bears, whatever. I mean, as long as they can use their hounds to do it, that's been a way of life for them. They grew up doing. And look, they run deer in Mississippi and Alabama, stuff like that with dogs. And it's a way of life, man. I've been on some of those hunts, and I'm telling you, these guys, they love and live to do it. They grew up doing it since they were kids. So I'm not saying we need to take that away from them. I'm saying there needs to be a season for them to do it where it doesn't infringe upon everybody that isn't doing it. So don't shake the woods up for everybody.
Yeah.
And I hope we can all get along and understand that and be respectful to one another. So Scott,
And
I
I-
hope that answers his question.
And I'll tell you, if you're a smart hunter as well, and if I was to hear dogs coming into an area, and I know that I have elk in here, man, there's ways of using that to your advantage too, by
Sure.
finding some of the saddles, looking some of those places where they might
They're gonna
push them over
pinch
to a
out.
north side, just like if they got pressure from hunters. So
Yeah.
there's a way to figure through the problem. You just don't throw your hands up in the air and go, it's over. I mean,
Yeah.
yes, it can be frustrating, but it's the people that go that little extra distance and do a little extra thinking that are
Yeah.
still successful. Okay.
Joe, if we thought it was over every time we encountered a person in the woods,
Yeah.
we'd never kill nothing. So
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many elk we've killed right after seeing somebody or having somebody stalk in on us. I mean, it's happened numerous times for us.
Yeah. Hey, Scott, thanks for that question, man. That's a great
Absolutely.
question. I hope we gave it justice. It's a tough one.
Good
And
question, though.
yeah, it's a great question.
Yep.
Okay, the next question comes from Tim Rieger from Abbotsford, British Columbia.
BC.
He says, I dusted off my bow for the first time this season and plinked the first 4 arrows in a nice little bullseye grouping. This is easy, I thought. Then none of the next 24 found the bull. So I quit and poured a drink.
I kind of
After I relaxed a bit, the next 8 arrows once again found the mark. So I figured I would quit while I was ahead and poured another drink. Now I don't think bending my elbow with the drink would be a recommended archery exercise. What would the fitness ninja recommend for strengthening exercises? In the past, I have walked the treadmill holding a 2-pound weight on my left arm, I guess, out in front of me for as long as I could. Guess I am getting older. Thanks, guys. Still love the show. Such an encouragement. Well,
Yeah.
I think we can give you 3 different aspects. I myself, started from probably ground zero after my bout with cancer, and I started with bands, elastic bands, and then right now I build my way up to rubber tubing, and just exercising the correct shooting posture, but using those. And what you can do too is crank your bow down a little bit and shoot till you feel you're strong enough to move up to the next weight. And just keep doing that. As far as carrying the 2-pound weight, I sometimes do that when I'm walking, just to because when you're carrying the bow, sometimes you have it out there. And just to give a plug out to Armando,
Yeah.
with a bow
There you
hitch, you don't
go.
have to worry about that.
Because
But,
carrying your bow sucks. If
No,
you
you
get
right.
Yeah, but
get you a bow hitch, Tim.
But
Now-
Chav, I think he's holding the weight out like this, like he's
Oh,
holding
like
the
this.
bow. Yeah.
Oh, like
Yeah.
he's holding his bow.
Oh, I see, like that. Okay.
Yeah.
That's pretty tough to do.
Cool.
But Joe and Gilbert both had an instance. Joe with the shoulder, Gilbert with his bicep.
Yeah.
Where they had to crank down quite a bit, and they could probably tell you a little bit more what they did to strengthen themselves and get back to their shooting.
Just what you said, Chav. We started with bands, then we went to tubing, and then I went to cables in my workout program. In my coming back from that attachment surgery, we went straight from little bands and then harder bands, and then we got to the cables, and I started pulling back 50, 60 pounds on those cables at the workout facility where it's a cable draw. So I would hold my hand up against it, grab it and pull it back. And I worked on strengthening my back muscles too.
There you go. That's
A lot of
key.
guys that when they draw their bow, and I even talked to the legend this weekend. I said, RC, do you use your back at all to draw that bow? And he goes, no. I said, man, try to push your shoulder blades together when you draw your bow. And man, it made it so much simpler for him. He was like, oh my God, I ain't fighting it near as bad. So we work on, rows and stuff like that to get those muscles right here behind your shoulders really strong. And that helps take a lot of pressure off the tricep and bicep and delt and everything else. And once you get those
Elbow.
yeah, your elbow. And once you get those muscles stronger, you just actually pinch your shoulder together, and man, you can draw your bow so much easier. But that's what I did. And I worked all the way up to 100-pound cable rows. And I wasn't really supposed to do that, but I had a goal of being able to pull my bow back when I got to elk camp. And about 2 weeks before I left elk camp, I was able to pull it back and start doing some shooting. But yeah, and now I'm back full time. When you got to go over to Luis's house and get your arrows built, you got to shoot 250 times. So at the end of the day, I'm back and feel good. But that's what I did. I don't know about Joe, but I know he worked with Doc a lot in getting his shoulder strengthened.
Well, I think just about anybody, especially when you first start shooting, when you first start coming back, you'll notice that if you're going to pull anywhere, you're going to pull a right-handed shooter. You're going to pull left or you're going to drop down, right?
Yeah.
Either you're dropping the bow arm, or it's just only natural, man. When we
Gravity.
are that bow arm, when we pull, we have a little bit of angle. So you're actually pushing, you're trying to pull away from the way it's pulling you to the inside. And so a lot of times when you release, you're actually pulling to that side,
Yeah.
and you'll end up pulling off to that left. So strengthening that bow arm by doing things where you're actually strengthening by doing kind of flies both ways, when you're laying on your belly going back, and then when you're laying on your back going forward, working those flies. And when you're holding that dumbbell out like that, Tim, you are working trying to so that bow arm can stay up and be stronger, but it's getting a lot of help. When you go here, if you just really work on holding that bow arm after the shot, that's the big thing, because when it's resisting, you're actually getting some help from being pulled back
Sure.
against it, right? But it's more about really focusing on keeping that bow arm up for the follow through. And like I said, the other one would be, is just getting, working those dumbbell flies to the back where you are working those shoulder blades in the back, like Gilbert's talking about, doing some where you're straight out and just coming out and up, and you can do it with bands. You can do it with anything. You could even, you can get up here and get a band on something, and you can actually pull it to the other direction or pull back on that band. You got to be light, because the shoulder is something that's easy to screw up if you try overdoing it. Always less is more, and then work into it. When you're talking shoulder, you're talking about there's nothing but muscle that holds the shoulder in. And it's, if you get crazy on that, you can injure yourself. So you got to go light with it and just do those types of things, man. And that's why just shooting, after a while, when you shoot a lot, it starts to get everything in line for you, So, and I also recommend this, Gil, is to make sure that you're warming up before you start shooting to get the muscles ready. Okay.
For sure. And one of the things, he made a really profound statement. He said, the first 4 arrows, man, bullseyes. Yep. Well, that's because the next ones is because you're getting tired already, right, and your form will go away. As soon as you start getting a little bit fatigued, your form will go away. And again, you relaxed, went and got you a little bit of liquid courage, and came back up there and picked the next ones up. But you were rested, and the next 8 found the mark again. So if you'd have kept rolling, you'd have start seeing your shooting deteriorate. So the more time you put in shooting, the stronger you're going to get too. And all of the band exercises and stuff like that. Joe, do you have a website that you could go to see Doc's stuff where he recommends the stuff
Mountain
for
Physio. You just go to Mountain
Mountain Physio.
Physio, and I would throw something out to Doc. I mean, he
Yeah.
posts stuff on Instagram all the time. But also, I have a shooting sequence thing that I do to develop shooting endurance, because as an instinctive shooter, I had to shoot so much. But one thing I would tell you, Doc, too, is, I'm sorry, Tim, is when you first start shooting and you pop those first ones there, okay, now that tells you something. That tells you know what it's like to have good form. Then when things go to crap like that, don't be so hard on yourself. Don't just give up on it. Just keep shooting through it a little bit as a workout on there, okay? And then now, before anything gets fatigued or injured, you got to go down. You're going to rest that, and then you can do multiple sessions, come back just like you would in a regular workout. You know, that's why, you know, you were warmed up, you strengthened those a little bit, you got blood flowing, you relaxed, you came back. Now instead of 4, you were doing 8 before everything went to heck, right? So once you do that and things start to go down a little bit, just work on really just focus and continue shooting through and not being so hard on yourself. Now, after week 3 of doing that, now it shouldn't be just 4. It should be 6 to 8 before you have to break down, right? And then you're going to continue to shoot through that. Not so much that you are compensating to shoot. That's when you start recruiting muscles to be able to shoot, you're getting too fatigued and you're breaking down your form. So you've got to back out of that and you got to rest before you shoot anymore. Okay. But that's what I would tell you, man, is you can do those kinds like Chav said, you know, you do those band exercises. The bands are fantastic. And everybody listening, don't think you have to use bands when you're just injured. You can be preventive and become a better shot just by strengthening that shoulder with the different exercises. Okay.
That's right. Well, guys, you know what time it is. It's time for our ElkBros shout-outs. If you're new to our show, this is a shout-out to our followers in a few cities with the most listeners, topping our charts this week, Joe.
Yep, and look, we started it on the last show. It was Travis's idea. Brilliant idea. First, we're going to reward some reviewers. And for those folks listening, what we're going to do is for those folks that leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or give us a comment on YouTube, and you must include your name and where you are from, we're going to be throwing your names into a hat, basically, once each month, and we're going to draw a winner for both a Wapiti River call and a signature ElkBros diaphragm call. It's not going to be the sugar yet. It's going to be the grinder. The sugars are going to be here next week. And we already have, we have tons of back orders on the sugar. It's so cool, man. It's cool to see that excitement. But so we have Sean Thompson of from Thompson Falls, Montana, Christopher Talbot from New Orleans, Steve Osborne from Adel, Iowa, Chris McKelvey from Meridian, Idaho, Jim Coyle from Du Bois, Wyoming, Talon Richardson from Helper, Utah, Tom Roth from Milton, Wisconsin, John Waldron from Wyoming, Jason Schultz from Salem, Connecticut, Casey Gamble from Hutchinson, Kansas, Keith Durr from Aurora, Colorado, Adam Visser from Calgary, Canada, Tim Rager from Abbotsford, BC, Scott Schwab from Jackson Hole, Wyoming, Rob Greer from Wellesley, Ontario, Canada, and Derek Squires from Brandon, Mississippi. That's 1 through 16. And what I'm going to do right here is I am going to share. We're going to share our number generator, and we're going to go ahead and pick. We've got 1 through 16 up here. We're going to generate it, pop that button, and the number is number 10. And the winner is Casey Gamble from Hutchinson, Kansas.
Oh, sweet, dude. Congrats, Casey.
Yeah, man. That's
a long-time listener, man.
Yeah.
Hey, did I hear you say we had one of the Waldron boys in that?
We did. John Waldron was in that. Yeah, cool. From Hunt Wars season.
Yeah.
John Waldron's in there, man. Yeah, and you can see. There's Casey Gamble, number 10, right there, guys. So,
where's Waldron? Is Waldron from Wyoming?
Yes, he is.
Mm-hmm. Is he one of them big, large boys that was in that?
Well, yeah, all them boys were large.
Dude, them guys were all giants, man. Made Cole Wilks look like a midget.
Yeah.
And that ain't easy to do. Cole's a big boy.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
had Dustin. Dustin was a big boy, and
Yeah.
you and John were big boys. And I mean, and man, don't take a look at Arizona boys too. They were pretty good size.
Like I said, man, I've been, upset that I haven't been able to come out there and see the Hunt Wars crew. It's got to be fantastic. I know Eric and our other coach,
Yeah, that's a lot of
Wilks
fun, man.
have done a
Absolutely.
bang up job at taking care of those guys. So it's so cool what they've got going on. I just saw a post from them where season 4 is coming out. And
Yes, sir.
pretty cool.
Get signed up,
Yeah.
man.
But
Go to
you're
Hunt Wars.
gonna see how big and how fast some of these guys are, man. The first crew I hunted with, the South Dakota boys, dude, they were 6'5", 6'6". Here's those short legs, me, dude. I'd be walking, and I literally would have to start jogging just to keep that distance the whole day. And then when they take off running, man, they're trying to leave this old man. I think they're trying to get rid of me, dude. They had some stride on them. Good Lord.
So listeners out there, if you want a chance to be drawn to win some of these calls on there, leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or on YouTube channel. Make sure you include your name and where you're from, and we'll throw you in the hat we'll be doing it in 4 weeks. So we'll let it gather up, and then we'll get those in 4 weeks on there. All right. And let's get those shout outs, Eric.
We're going to do it proper in this first one. So
Proper
first,
12.
first shout out today, man. It's what an amazing place. So,
It is.
it's an amazing
This is
city.
unbelievable. That's all I got to say. This is unbelievable.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. It is. I mean, this town's had Nobel Prize winners for literature. I mean, if you're into food, you got Michelin star restaurants. You've got world-renowned beer and spirits. You got famous musicians and bands. I don't know if you ever heard of Handel's Messiah. Very, that was first performed there in 1742. You have the father of modern conservatism, Sir Edmund Burke's from there. You got some of the best coffee in the world. I mean, Muhammad Ali fought there in 1972, if you like boxing. Real interesting, I think I found out about the city too, is about 50% of the citizens are estimated to be under 25 years of age.
Wow.
There's a lot of nightlife action in that town. So really a lot going on. Yep.
And one of the best MMA fighters of all time, Mr. Conor McGregor.
Mr. Conor McGregor. So from the ElkBros, I want to just say Slanchava to our boys in Dublin, Ireland. So
Dublin,
Ireland. Woo, topping the list from across the pond.
So Slanchava means good health, boys. So
Sanchava.
thanks for listening.
Sanchava.
International, dude.
International, baby.
ElkBros International.
Yeah, we had last week, the top listening city, I think it was last week, was from our brothers and sisters in Canada. And dude, the listeners in Dublin beat out our top listening, Denver. They beat out Dallas.
Crazy, man.
Yeah, I was like, how cool is this? And also in the mix that just missed being in our mentions tonight, blew my mind, Tokyo, Japan.
Come on, man.
Yeah.
Tokyo, Japan.
So I'm not sure, arigato. I'm not sure everybody that was listening out there. I don't know if it's our service guys or who it is, but I tell you what, thank you so much. It just,
Absolutely.
it's very, very cool.
Hey, if you guys in Dublin, man, send the ElkBros crew kilts. I'd love to see us in some kilts hunting, baby. That would be awesome, dude.
So
I'd like to see the Venezuelan mafia hunting the hills with some kilts on. Dude. That would look.
So I say I'm Italian. My dad is Italian. All my family from Italy. My grandma from Genoa. My grandfather from Sicily. But on my mom's side, they're Scottish, and so we have the McKay side over there that do the kilts and everything. And I tell you what, I go to some of those Celtic competitions and check those people out. Let me tell you what, there's some mans wearing some skirts out there. Let me tell you.
For sure, buddy.
Amen.
Yes, sir. Those fellas that got it going on, man. There's some pretty cool things to watch.
Yes,
if you like to chase that white ball, Ireland's a place to go do it too, man.
ain't no doubt.
Just,
Ain't no doubt.
That would just
How cool
be
is
fun.
that? Next up, this top listening Midwestern town is home to two bluegrass gospel groups, the Isaacs and the Blessed Union of Souls. This town was named after the 9th governor of the state of Ohio, and that is Morrow, Ohio.
Moral
Ohio in the house.
Ohio. Cool.
Ohio in the house.
Yep.
You been there?
Have
There you go.
Have not been to
Gilbert?
Morrow. Been to a bunch of
Gilbert has.
cities. Have been to a bunch of cities in Ohio, but I don't think I've ever been through Morrow.
Okay, this city, located at the base of the Laurel Highlands, is best known as the birthplace of children's television pioneer Fred Rogers, Mr. Rogers, and golf legend Arnold Palmer. In 1904, the banana split was invented here by an optometrist, Dr. Strickler, and this is in Latrobe, Pennsylvania.
The banana split was invented there.
The banana
what they
split, bro.
Man, I thought the founder of Dairy Queen found out.
No. So Doc Strickler worked in, what did they call those drugstore sodas? The
Soda fountain place.
soda
Soda fountain,
place.
soda jerk.
Yeah. Soda. There you go. He was a soda jerk, man. And when he was in college, that was the job that he did there. And guy came in and asked for something different, and the banana split was born.
Man, I'm a sucker for a banana split.
Oh man, Latrobe, Pennsylvania.
Pennsylvania.
Yep.
That's awesome. The PA shows up. Well, guys, this next city was named.
Wait, dude. I just got to say though, man. We're going all crazy about the banana split, and we left Mr. Rogers and Arnold Palmer in the dust.
yeah, arguably one of the greatest golfers of all time, and definitely a cool children's book reader.
Oh, Mr. Rogers.
Yeah, my wife's a school teacher, man. She loves Mr. Rogers.
Oh, heck yeah.
Yeah.
But man, we went straight to the ice cream.
Yeah. You tell where my mind's at this evening, Joe, for sure. Well, this next city,
lamb chops.
Yeah, lamb chops. Yeah. This city's name was taken from a local river and means lazy or sluggish. It's the host of two signature events, the Crayfish Festival, and we call it crawfish down here, but Crayfish Festival, and each August, and the West Coast Giant Pumpkin Regatta in October in Tualatin, Oregon.
Oregon.
Yep, Tualatin, Oregon.
Wow. I was thinking Louisiana the whole time when you said crawfish.
Yeah, well, it would be crawfish and not crayfish.
Yeah, that makes sense now. Yep.
Is there a difference?
No, they're the same. We just up above the Mason-Dixon, they call it crayfish, and below the Mason-Dixon, they call it crawfish.
But they're spelled different too, right? Crawfish.
They are, but they're the same thing.
Okay. All right, man. I'm just, hey.
They're both crustaceans. And got
I want to keep my crustaceans straight, man.
Yeah.
So, all right, y'all. Main content, Becoming an Elk Hunter series. We're going to jump right into this because we were working on closing the deal basics last time. We had talked about setup. We had talked about response and different things like that. We're going to go immediately and talk about different parts of that. I want to break it down from shot focus, reading body language, stopping what that is and why, so that people understand that, shot placement, and really after that, we can talk about the confusion after the hit. I think we lost Eric there. he just went off for a second. Okay, so what are we talking about when we talk about closing the deal and shot focus? What are we looking at in thinking about that? Think about that. Let's break it down, because a lot of guys, when they have an animal coming in, they start to get a little bit shaky,
antsy,
and when we're talking about shot focus, what we're talking about in this is not so much the placement. What we're talking about this is already looking for those holes where that animal can possibly come through.
Yeah. Where are we going to kill him?
Where are we going to kill that animal?
Yeah. Where are we going to harvest?
Great way to put it, Gil. Great way to put it.
And the other thing you got to realize when you're thinking about that, you always got to consider the wind. Do you have a crosswind? So if you have a crosswind, and which is a channel of scent, at what point could that animal cross that channel of scent? Because your shot focus on where you want to kill that animal has to be prior to that happening, right? So when you're there and you're set up and that animal's coming in, I don't care which direction that animal is coming. I want you to look ahead of the direction that animal's coming and see what are the possibilities of where you're going to be able to take that animal. But then I want you to look towards the other sides of that as well. What if that animal turns? Because there's so many times you get all set up, you get all ready, and they will stop, and all of a sudden they have a log, they have something, whatever reason, they come in a different direction. So you got to really scope your field out and look at your possible shot opportunities. All right.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the biggest things to closing a deal. Number one, got to draw your bow to close the deal, right? And then when you draw your bow, he needs to, the animal or the critter needs to be in the kill zone, right? In the killing area or harvesting area where you want to take him. So, it's the old adage, if the elk's walking past a tree, wait till he clears the tree before you draw. Don't draw back when his head's behind the tree, because he's going to stop and the whole tree is going to be covering the kill zone. Let him pass, draw, and if he boogers, be ready for that. Have your little diaphragm there. He boogers, little cow call.
Or even grunt at him.
Yeah, or even grunt at him. Woo! Anything like that to get his attention, and he will bound. Sometimes they bound 10 yards, sometimes just 5 yards, sometimes 20, but they will always turn broadside. And you need to be at full draw, ready for that broadside deal, understand what your distance looks like. And again, guys, closing the deal on these critters, distance makes such an important factor. Got to understand what you're looking at, 40 yards and in. That makes a huge difference. And anything past that, you need to be right on the money, because you got to send it and be confident that yardage is right. Otherwise, we can't send it. I say this 1,000 times, if you don't know the yardage and you question it at all, don't send it, man. But closing the deal, you have to put all of those dots together, and it happens like that. I mean, it's so fast at times, but as you get more of these under your belt, it'll get easier for you to connect the dots, and you'll almost plan out, all right, I'm going to kill him right there. And poof, you send it before you even know what's happened, right? Because you start learning how to connect the dots. But for me, shot focus, reading that animal's body language, whether, he's got his ears in an alert position. Is he looking at me? Because it doesn't matter to me if the animal's looking at me or not, especially if I'm 30 and in. He's getting it. And, once they get past that, then they can react a little bit different, especially if they're 40, 50, they're looking right at you and you send it, they're going to spin, they're going to get, elk pivot. They don't drop too much. They'll pivot. So you gotta kind of read their body language. And a lot of times, if their body language is super alert and they're kind of on a quartering to you, that's probably not a shot you want to take, right? So understanding that you eat just a little bit, let him get in that good window, draw your bow, and send it, man.
Here we go.
What if there was a way to flatten your elk hunting learning curve and have the experience of a lifetime, gaining decades of elk hunting knowledge and skill sets that'll take your DIY confidence and abilities to a whole new level? Look no further. Welcome to ElkBros Adventures in our coached adventure camp, an elk hunting experience like no other. Your prep and training starts months before you ever step foot on the mountain. Our campers have weekly online training sessions with each member of our ElkBros Success Squad in all aspects of the hunt: gear, physical conditioning, archery setup, failure points to avoid, shooting proficiency, finding elk, locating, behavior, calling, setup, and closing the deal. From the moment you get to elk camp, the boots on the ground training begins. Each camper will have one of the ElkBros trained coaches with them throughout the hunt, not guiding, but teaching and helping you to learn and apply those lessons. For the price of what many today are paying for tags alone, you will be smashing that DIY learning curve, becoming a more knowledgeable, capable, effective, confident, and therefore successful DIY elk hunter. Y'all, hunt preparation like no other, a learning experience like no other, an elk hunting adventure like no other. For more information, go to elkbros.com/hunt. That's elkbros.com/hunt. Flattening that learning curve? Now there is a way.
Well, cheers to the ElkBros, huh? Cheers. Cheers to a great elk hunt. Yes, sir.
I watched a video where, because almost every elk that I've killed, I've never had an elk drop on me, but elk can drop. And I think we saw this on videos that were taken up in Alberta area where a guy was shooting at one. But as that animal was coming in, that animal was already super jumpy. It was already doing little jumps like this. And just, you could tell at a distance, if that animal was at a distance and you went and took that shot, that animal was going to try to get out of there. He was already feeling so paranoid that something was trying to get him. And that's where you got to pay attention to that body language. That's what Gil is talking about. For example, you'll have an elk will sometimes do what I call a false feed, where they're in the wide open and they will go down like they're going to eat grass. And a lot of times people will go ahead and draw at that point in time. And that animal is actually, this is something that they do to get a predator to make a move on that. Yep. And so sometimes they're going to just go down, not even feed, and they're going to snap their head up and they're just looking for you to move. That's something to pay attention to. And it's kind of like, and Gil said, distance is everything. The further they get away from you, you have to know when an animal is stopping looking your direction. Why did that animal stop and look? Read that animal's body language. Does it take a step backwards like it's getting ready to get out of there when it's doing that? Is it urinating? Because once it starts urinating, it's getting ready to get out of Dodge right there. Okay. Mm-hmm. Unless he's bugling and palpitating, that's a whole different deal. If you have an animal that's bugling and you have an opportunity to take that shot, that is golden right there. That's a golden opportunity. If that animal is raking inside a tree, the beauty about an elk is whatever they're doing with their head, their body stays still. Yep. So, that is just a prime time right there. When they're doing it. But
when their head's down and they're eating or something like that, even if, like you said, they're doing that, when their head's down, their body can move a lot more. Right. So if their head's up, they can't move near as much because their body wants to spring down, right? But if again, it's that magic number of 30 yards. If it's past 30, they got a lot more opportunity to move. If they're inside of 30, our bows nowadays, even with the heavy arrows we shoot, they don't have enough time to get out of there, right? So y'all got to really know your distance. And, Joe taught me that a long time ago, man. Pick a spot, draw your bow, have to draw, and then, feel good about it. You guys go back and look at our shot placement podcast. It's the best in the world. I'm telling you, if you hit them where we tell you to hit them, you're going to watch them fall. You're not going to have to chase them. I can tell you that.
Yeah. Eric, you were going to say something. I'm sorry.
No, I agree with everything you're saying too. Like the problem I would have early on is I was left eye dominant. I am left eye dominant, but I shoot right-handed. So when I first started hunting, I was trying to shoot with both eyes open.
Got to close it, yeah.
And and I have to close it because what happens once you start getting that fight or flight, you get that adrenaline rush, that left
dominant eye takes over.
And guess what? My arrow's running. And I couldn't figure out why. Like, why am I missing so bad on this animal?
Yeah.
End up wounding an animal. That's what it was.
Yeah.
And then we talk about it, but the Easy V for me really took a lot of that out too. I do not to just make that part of that hunt for me, executing the shot for me, the V is just perfect because I don't have to worry about distance. I've been shooting it so much. I love the instinctive part of it. It just takes all that target panic out because I would get it because I'd be so worried about my eye. So if that's a problem you might have, you might consider that, just little things like that make a big difference.
Yeah, and even if you booger the animal, don't worry, man. You can stop him. RC, me and Brendan, we boogered that bull that was, within 18 yards of us. We boogered him. He run all the way around the outside of that daggum walla.
Meadow.
And and we stopped him at 53 yards or 57 yards, man. And that's all I needed was to know the distance, and we sent it, But if I wouldn't have never tried to call to him to stop him, he'd have never stopped. He'd have just run out of our life,
And that was actually the best time to shoot when you did, because when an animal is going and they stop, everything's into the stop. They haven't had a chance to really regather and get ready to go, and they're stopping to check. So they're planted. And that was actually the best time to pop that critter. Right.
Yeah. And he was out there far enough where, he started to move a little bit before the arrow got to him, but it was too late. We'd already sent it, and, man, it was just it's the right thing to do. You like Joe said with that hog this past weekend, if he does nothing, it just walks out of his life. You got to try to stop the animal. Then it's imperative to know your distance of where the animal's at. And generally, when you stop them with a cow call or a grunt or a bugle, whatever you stop them with, they're going to stop and turn broadside. It's just their fatal flaw.
Yep.
We talk about it all the time, man. And you guys got to understand, when you come up the back leg of that animal and he's totally broadside with your pin or with your Easy V, you got 10 to 12 inches behind that leg to get it in them two lungs. And I'm telling you, if you hit both those lungs and get two holes, brother, even if you don't get two holes, but you get both the lungs, son, it's over. Que sera, sera. You will put your hands on that bull. Guys that don't get two lungs, they're going to struggle with trying to find it. You're going to kill him, but it's going to take a lot longer for that bull to die.
More work.
And we have, since come and looked at some really cool video that's out there now on shot placement and stuff from a surgeon. And he tells us why.
Thoracic surgeon. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's a thoracic surgeon. And he tells us why when you punch a hole through that pleural cavity and get both lungs deflated, it suffocates the animal almost instantly. And that's why they can't go very far, and they pass clean out and they die, man. It doesn't matter whether you shoot them with a big broadhead or a daggum ice pick that goes through both of them. When you deflate that pleural cavity, they cannot breathe. And so, they asked him a couple of times, well, what if you think you made the perfect shot? You hit him right and you didn't find him within a couple hundred yards. He said, well, you didn't hit him right, because that just doesn't happen. And I think it's 100% correct. Every deer or every elk I've ever shot and got both lungs, man, I actually watched them fall. They didn't run out of my life, so fantastic stuff.
Yep. Yeah, it is, man. Chav, you were going to say something?
Yeah, I was going to say a good time to drop back too is when they're walking.
Yeah,
they'll see a movement and maybe spook just about 10, 15 yards.
Or even stop and look at you.
Yeah, they'll just stop
Right.
and look at you. Mm-hmm.
And of course, the key thing is when they're close up like that, you got to draw. Like you said before, if you don't draw, you're not going to have any opportunities. So.
Oh my gosh.
Mm-hmm.
I can't tell you how many I've been with guys that are young elk hunters, and I've called several bulls in for people, and I'm looking over, I'm like, man, why ain't you drawn? And they're like, oh, he's looking at me. Draw your bow, dude. We're never going to get this deal done if we don't draw our bow.
Yeah.
But I think this crew that I hunt with are the best closers in the business, and it's from El Jefe on down. But we preach this about closing the deal, and I hunt with some straight up killers, man.
I truly believe that the success rate, I really think that's the difference. I think so many people get in great position, have incredible encounters, get very close to elk, but just don't know how to close the deal. I think that is the missing link. And that's why if you just keep covering this stuff, and you're going to hear our same common themes, man. I mean, and that's because these are the things that we know and believe make us successful. Like, for example, when we talk about shot placement, what I find is the problem is that a lot of hunters come from the top down. They're looking at the animal's eye, they're looking at the horns, and then they come down and try to place something in that shoulder right there. And really it's really about legs. You got to become a leg person because when you look at those legs, they're going to tell you everything about that animal. You know, if you look at that onside leg, if you're seeing that offside leg that's back behind it, that means that critter's quartering away. You know, if you're seeing both legs from the front side like that now you're getting that animal turned frontal. Those legs will tell you what position. And all you have to then do is go up that leg and determine your shot. Like, for example, if I see that where I have the onside leg and I have the backside leg further back, if further back here, I'm aiming using the backside leg, not the front one. Because of that angle, if I shoot at the front leg, I'm only going to get one lung and I'm going to punch out through the chest on the other side. By aiming at that back leg on the other side on a quartering away animal, that's going to put me straight through both lungs and that animal's not going to go anywhere. Okay. So legs is where you go and you look at those legs. It's going to tell the story of the quarter. It's going to tell you whether it's perfectly broadside. If it's perfectly broadside, I'm going straight up that leg, looking at that crease. I'm going 3 to 4 inches back, mid body, and I'm letting go. It doesn't take long time to do that. I mean, you're just placing right in that spot. And so many people want to go for that. And I understand why, but they want to go for that lower third heart shot right above the elbow. And listen, it is a killing shot, but you are risking recovery and you're risking hitting an elbow, coming off and hitting that leg or hitting that knuckle or hitting that shoulder blade. So the key is to deflate the lungs. And that means all you got to do is mid-body, 3 inches behind that crease. You pop right there, you get two holes. Okay. I'm going to say it again. 2 holes. You get 2 holes through those lungs. They deflate and you have an incredible blood trail that's going to help you recover that animal. And that's what, for us as coaches, it's not just about the animal dying. It's about us recovering the animal. Right. So I get real excited about that. I get real passionate about that because that's what this is about. That's our ethical side of it. That's our responsible side of it. That's our efficient. Look, you don't hear me say it very often, but there are people that hunt and there are people that are good killers as far as being efficient on getting an animal down. And that's where that difference lies in there. And I am very efficient when it comes to finishing and closing there. And that's been my key all these years. And I've got fellas now around me that have become extremely efficient on doing that. So know that anatomy, know that shot placement, but it's not, you don't have to overthink it. And today, Travis O'Shea sent a text to me. We have a group and stuff that we talk all the time. And he's like, Joe, man, out of the 37 elk that you've taken, how many of those shots were broadside? Every one.
Exactly, babe.
Every one of them were. Now, was there a little quarter maybe one way or the other? There might have been, but I wait for a broadside shot. I have never yet killed a bull on a frontal. Luis has devastated a bull on a frontal, but I've always waited for a broadside shot, and it's been effective for me. Okay, so that's...
Look, the last 4 bulls that I put down, we watched them, or 5, we watched them fall in front of us. I mean, they didn't go combined maybe 60 yards between them. I mean,
Right.
one bull went less than 55 feet. The other one went, I don't know, 15 yards, Joe, the bull you called up the ridge for me. I mean, he didn't go down to the bottom of the ridge. He died right there on the side of the ridge. So when I tell you guys this shot placement that we use, it kills them quick, man. There ain't no tracking. I mean, we watch them go fall down, you know. It's a bunch of daggum high-fiving and rejoicing and dogpiling going on because we watch them fall, you know. And that's what I'm about. I'm about dispatching these critters ethically and quick because they deserve it, you know, and they deserve you to do your very best in understanding how to get it done.
It takes away a ton of stress too.
It does, man.
I mean,
it does.
I've been in situations with tons of hunters, you know, and you think that you've made a good hit. Again, there's that thing where you think you made the perfect hit, but it's not.
Yep.
And you end up having to track these animals. You got to wait hours. You got to, depending on what you find, you know, we're going to talk about that here in just a minute, the tracking part. But, you know, I hate that stress of not knowing if you're going to recover that animal. Right.
Yeah, there was another little part in this closing the deal, man. Once you hit the animal, confuse him a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Confuse him after the hit. You send out a
Scream a bugle.
scream a bugle or something like that, and it'll generally stop him in his tracks, and he'll be confused. And generally, you, like I said, you punch 2 holes in them lungs, he ain't going very far, fellas. He's going to fall in sight. If not,
But I think too, once you fire that shot, you need to reload like right away.
Absolutely.
You can take the next shot. And
Absolutely.
great point.
You're not only watching his body language when you're getting ready to shoot him, you're watching what he's doing when you hit him. Is his head going down? What are the things that are going on? Can I get another arrow in that animal if I need to? You know, just stand there looking at him and not getting an arrow on your bow.
If he's up, get another one in him.
Put another one in him.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
If he's up, man, you need to put him down and just keep putting them in him. I mean, we carry a quiver full of them, and I'm telling you, they are so tough, man.
Yeah.
If he's up, put another one in him.
You know, when as soon as we hit a bull, I start screaming so ridiculously on my bugle. Anybody was to listen, they're like, "What the heck is that sound?" I don't care. I'm just like, yeah. I'm trying to force that bull to hear me making a sound, and man, I just start screaming stuff out there, man, at it. So just to confuse that bull, and man, they will stop and drop.
Yep.
It
will. Or they'll run themselves into a tree and hit the tree and drop.
Okay, so let's talk about success basics. So we've talked about everything on closing the deal. Now you've gotten it done. Okay, so after the shot, to basically tell you what you need to do after the shot. And I'm going to start it off and just say it this basic. You first of all have to be an incredible witness.
Yeah.
All right.
Good point.
What do I mean by that, guys?
Yeah,
man. Observing, you have the direction of travel.
Yep.
Just watching that elk, seeing his body language, you're following, not taking your eyes off, having a good line of sight, knowing where your shot was.
Yeah.
You know, picking things out in that terrain, like I shot him right here. I know exactly where I'm at. I'm not leaving that piece. I know what direction he went.
Listening for the crash.
Listening for the crash, not celebrating, none of that stuff. Just keeping my focus, trying to see if I can locate where that animal's going and have a real good idea of where I shot him and what direction of travel he was headed in. You know, so I've got good markers, you know.
And then it's so important to find your arrow afterwards, man. So important. It'll tell you so much about
if you can, make sure you find that arrow, man. And if you're a good witness, you'll know, because a lot of times as that animal's going away, you can see whether the arrow is sticking out on one side, is it bouncing on the other. If you're not seeing an arrow, you're just seeing a spot. You know,
was he with a herd? Was he with other animals? Because what direction were they going?
Yep.
Because he may be headed right. You know, that's been my experience a lot of times. If there's other animals right there, they were with that crowd, they're heading the same direction they're going. They're all running out. He's just following till he either drops or I haven't really seen one in my experience take off a totally different direction. If the herd, I killed a big bull. The herd was way away from him. I had him soloed out. He went in a totally different direction, and the herd ended up trying to find him. But man, I've had some where they just run the same direction as the cows were going. They're just moving the same way. But I don't know what your experience has been.
Yeah, and then listen too afterwards.
Yeah, man, you can hear them
hear them crash. Yeah.
And even on the shot, what did it sound like? Did it sound like, did you not hear anything? Did you hear a little bump out of it? Did you hear a hard whack? What did it sound like? Because that's going to be part of the information that you're going to use. And, I want to really emphasize what Eric said. A lot of times, if you see me on video after I've shot, and you would not even know I hit an animal, because I am so busy taking in everything that is going on after the shot to ensure, do not jinx yourself by celebration before that animal is down, because the job is not over yet at that point. You start screaming, man, the first thing you could do, man, if you start yelling and waving and doing stuff, man, you could actually get that animal's adrenaline going. And once that does, you're putting yourself in a bad position if you do that. So keep the voices low, be staring at what that animal, make sure you're screaming a bugle while you're doing it to confuse that animal, but watch, man. If you have somebody with you, they're going to be listening as much as possible. When you see the last thing that they went by, that they disappeared, look at that last thing. What is it? Is it a tree? Is it a bush? Is it a rock? Get your rangefinder out, range that, put a marker, get that tape out, put a piece of tape or stick your arrow in the ground, do something to mark exactly where you're at and range from there, because now that's going to help you to find those tracks, to find that blood, whatever you need to when you need to get out there, So that's really going to help you out in that situation, but you have to become a good witness. All right.
Definitely.
Yeah. Now let's talk about tracking. Gil, if I've hit an animal and I have not heard that animal, I have not seen that animal go down, what's our rule for waiting, man?
Man, for me, it's an hour and a half, 2 hours, man. I'm going to at least wait that long before I pursue him, just because I don't know, if I hadn't seen where I hit him, I can't find my arrow, the whole 9 yards, I'm going to give him an hour to an hour and a half, 2 hours, man. Just depends on what I was the witness of that shot. If I thought it was a little back or something like that, I'm going to give him a lot of time, If I don't exactly know, I'm still going to give him a lot of time. I watched that big bull that I killed in New Mexico. I watched him fall over after he traveled 55 feet, and I still gave that bull an hour and 25 minutes before I went up there and looked at him with Chav. And Chav's like, well, he's probably dead. I say he might be.
Yeah, it's like, what are you waiting on, dude?
I'm not getting over there and messing with him until I know that he's dead. Yeah. I've come from the old, old school, and the laws of Beto, the mafia would say is 2 hours, but hour and a half, 2 hours is what I like to give them before I ever go out there, start looking.
Yeah, if I have punched my spot broadside through both sides and double lunged, I'm a half hour minimum, and I'm with you. I mean, if I see and know that, right?
Yeah. If I watched him fall and I heard him gurgling and everything, well, we're gonna walk up on him and celebrate in just a few seconds. But if he's run out of my sight and I can't see him any longer, and I don't have a good idea about where I hit him, those low light or whatever it may be, I'm gonna give him up to an hour and a half before I ever even go look. That's why it's so, like Joe said, so important to be a great witness on what went on. And then, man, tracking is all about understanding what the blood looks like, what that animal's leaving behind. On your arrow, especially if you can find your arrow, it tells a huge tale on, how that animal's hit.
Yeah. Okay. So let's give some basic rules on that. Sure. All right. Like everybody's probably heard, if you find that bright pink or that frothy blood on there with the bubbles in it that you've hit the lung, you're probably in half-hour wait, 45 minutes to an hour, right? Before you start to track. What's nice is if you wait that half hour and then you just work on finding your arrow and finding that first blood, it's going to get into an hour pretty quick on that, just because you're doing something with that. But if you get that arrow and it's a dark red and you feel grit on it, okay, that means that you most likely have liver. You have liver, you're 6 hours, 4 to 6 that you're going to be waiting on that. Because a liver shot can take a while, man. If you pick it up and, you just barely have any blood on there and you can smell punch on that, man,
24 hours.
Yeah, you're waiting now, man. I mean, minimum of 12 hours, man, minimum of 12 hours. And I would let them lay down overnight and I'd go look for them in the morning. Let that cold air get to them. Let them, get sick. I mean, it's hard. If I saw them in a point where I knew where they were and they were bedded down and I could see where they were sick and I could get a second one in them, that's one thing. It depends on the type of terrain you have. If you see something like that, but if it's thick and you're not, or if it's dark, do not go out and jump that animal because you're going to lose it. Okay.
And look, I've seen a lot of liver blood be mistaken for lung blood because the animal's standing there and they have a hepatic artery that runs through the liver. And if you hit that, it's going to kill them quicker than the lower side of the liver. But if you don't hit the hepatic artery, we're talking 6 to 8 hours. If you hit the hepatic artery, we're talking 2 to 4 hours. But what I'm saying is it will run out of the animal really fast. And when it hits the ground with that kind of force, it'll create bubbles in that blood, right? So what you've seen is it just frothing up from where it runs out and hits the ground. It's really not lung blood that'll froth up and get bubbly. When an animal's losing blood that fast, and I didn't learn this till this year of us tracking my liver shot deer, when that animal's pouring that blood out that fast and hitting the ground, it actually flocculates that blood and gets bubbles in it, right? So it kind of it was darker. It wasn't that real pink blood. That pink stuff, that's what tells you that is definitely lung blood, right? If it's dark red or reddish at all, it's either muscle tissue or liver. And that is where you want to back out and leave them alone and just back out and be quiet, guys. Don't hoop and holler and even when you're looking for your arrow, be quiet, because if you jump them up, oh my gosh, it can go so far. Joe's been on several days worth of tracking on a liver shot animal. So, or gut shot animal. So, I mean, it's tough.
36 hours, man. Yeah.
36 hours, man. And, the first bull I ever killed in my life, we had to leave him overnight. And when we got to him at 7:30, 8 o'clock the next morning, he wasn't even stiff, was he, Joe?
No, he had just died within probably 40 minutes,
We got one lung and the liver. And I mean, that was it. But if we don't leave him lay and we go bump him, we never find that bull.
Yeah, if it's at night, you really got to be careful. Unless you have the hit, you've heard the gurgling, you gotta really play it safe, because they can see you and you're not seeing them. You got flashlights, people are talking. It's just a bad medicine. And, I'll give you basics for tracking as well, is to ensure that you stay on the side of your blood trail. If there's multiple people, ask other people to maybe go look up ahead or stay on the side looking for the animal while you're tracking. Be careful people messing up the area and messing up the blood trail. If you get frustrated and you get tired, get off of it, let somebody else get on it. Now you maybe go ahead and look at those paths of least resistance. If you lose an animal's trail, look for paths of least resistance that they're going to take, or if it's so bad that they're trying to stash their trail, sometimes they will go through some of the thickest stuff like scrub oak or something like that to try to mess that trail up a little bit. I've had that happen as well. But
even the direction, the blood, when you see that blood splatter,
yes,
depending on what direction, it'll tell you the direction of travel. So Yeah, so you'll see where it hits, and then it carries over. You know what I mean? It gets long. You know you're going in the right direction too.
I will tell you, as soon as you start tracking, everybody should have GPS system of some kind on their phone, either Onyx, Base Map, any of those on there.
Start a track.
You start a track immediately, and that's going to help you in a number of ways. It's going to show you the direction that animal's been going. If you end up do not get the animal, you have the last spot that you were. You know, if you have to end up stopping, you have the last spot that you were. Also, if you end up having to grid search, it is incredible for helping you to grid search. So you'll know where you were, you'll know where the lay of the land is, because that can mess with you. So that's a really good tool to have. Now let's go to basics on breaking down and packing out. And you know, when I talk about this, everybody, you're going to read what a kill kit is. You should be able to find that from anybody. And we're just talking about the things that we need to properly take down an animal. The type of knives we're going to have. Are we going to have game bags? Do you use rubber gloves? If you always see me using rubber gloves, and people always like, God dang, dude, man, you've been hunting elk and you use rubber gloves. Well, I'm allergic to elk blood. It's crazy, but I am.
Are you really?
Yeah, I'm allergic to
wow.
deer dander.
Yeah.
I'm not allergic to elk, but I'm allergic to deer dander. And if I don't use gloves, man, I'll hive up and whelp up and stuff like that.
Yeah. So I've always had to, you know, I've killed 37 elk, and I have to wear gloves when I work them, man. But you're going to have your kill kit, and we use the gutless method. And we're not going to teach you that right here. There's all kinds of places where you can learn about that. We will eventually have that on our academy as well, to do that. But the gutless method is just what it sounds like. You're going from the outside, taking your quarters, taking your neck meat, taking your back straps. You're doing all that from the outside without having to gut the animal, you know. It's something that I have used forever. And
yes, we get the tenderloins from the inside out.
Absolutely.
No.
Yep.
Mhm.
There's a way to do that.
It is so much quicker to do that if you learn about that. It's going to save you time and somebody. Now, if you have a way of getting to an animal and taking it out whole, and you plan on taking the process, more power to you. Gut that animal and, you know, get it out of there. But generally we are packing an animal, and so we work the quarters in the gutless method. We're going to either use a frame pack, or if we have like an initial ascent, if you have some of the other packs that have, you know, the Kifaru and Kuyu, any of those packs that have pack shelves on them within their systems there. That's great. You had probably, if you're going to use those, probably should have game bags with you to help a little bit with blood management and to keep that stuff clean. When we use pack frames, depending on our distance, if we're, you know, Chav, you and I have been doing this for years when we actually had to do it on shoulders, right?
Done a few of them,
I remember the shoulder.
Yeah, our main thing was we wouldn't even skin the leg first. We would just come in, separate it from the body, let those big muscles get to the air. That way our meat stayed cleaner because it wasn't getting all kinds of stuff on it. If we had to put it on the shoulder, we had to put it on a pack frame. We were getting it to within a half mile to a vehicle, and we had it to camp in no time, where we would then have a good situation for skinning it and cleaning it. But if we are deep and having to pack, skin's coming off, it's hanging, and we're getting air around it, right?
Yeah, and we get in a cool, dry place, you know, try to find some shade. We always keep some paracord with us where we can get us a little, you know, like pole lash, where we lash it between two trees and we can hang our quarters up there. Simply, you know, a lot of times it's late or whatever, and you might not be able to get back till the next morning to come get those. But if you hang them up there, usually the critters won't get to them, and they get to cool out real quick once you got all that air circulating around them. And look, man, this is important for you guys and how your meat tastes. If you do not get your meat taken care of, it's not going to taste as well, you know. So the way we do it's really quick. we do have an awesome system because our boys will come from miles away to help you pack something out. And generally, if
We'll
there's
have a
4 or
whole
5 of
animal
us,
out in no
yeah,
time.
we'll have a whole animal out in 1 to 1.5 trips. And, you know, but doing it by yourself, I can see where it could
Got a
take you like,
plan. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, you ask our boy Adam Messner. I mean, he had all he wanted and finally had Joe come help rescue him. But I mean, it's a full-time job to take care of one of these animals by yourself. They're huge. I mean, Tom Roth killed his bull. It was a big spike, but I'm telling you, he was like, this is unbelievable. I don't know how I'd have done this by myself, you know, and this is not even a giant bull, you know. So I've been around some big bulls, and man, I'm telling you, you're glad to have help. And I was never more glad to see Joe and the big Canadian Tucker and Luis and Chav. Chav was with me, but I was never more glad to see all them guys when we needed to knock one
Oh
down,
yeah,
you know,
for sure.
and get him skinned and cleaned up, man.
I think
But
I've already said this before too, is that once you get that animal broke down, it's time to haul. We've talked about previous shows about making sure you better have some walking sticks, man.
agreed. Yep.
I went for years not ever using them, and that's a huge difference. But always carry. I have my kill kit, but I also carry a little food supply kit. So I keep electrolytes, and I keep some stuff to keep me, because man, you're gonna need the energy. So a lot of times, like if I just got through shooting at an animal and I'm having to wait, I'm gonna start eating right.
Yeah.
I'm eating right then and there. Start
Yeah.
hydrating, get ready for yourself.
Yeah.
And then I think some of the things too, if you're on the ground and you're breaking that animal down, man, it'll wear your back out.
Yes.
Leaning over that animal. If you need to get it, you can strip it down and get it hung in the tree, and then start, you know, if you want to debone it from there, you're standing up, can make it easier on you, because your back's getting ready to get all the work in your legs. So yeah, there's little things like that that make a big difference in how it may take you a little bit longer, but it's you know, take your time, do it right. Don't be in a rush with your knives. We've talked about a number of times.
Yeah.
And you better have some clotting, different things like that, just in case something happens, because you can get cut. And then my partner last year, he was pointing out like knife safety. Like he said, I saw some things you're doing with your knife. I said, well, tell me what I was doing. And he was pointing. I said, okay, cool. Yep, that's a great point. I didn't think about that. So I need to make sure and know where your knife is at all the time. If you guys are cutting, you're putting it somewhere, let your partner know where it is. You're not leaving it or stepping on it. You can get hurt real easy with them blades. So
and we use the outdoor edge knives, man. So they're super sharp. And if you poke yourself at all, man, it's going to leave a mark.
But it's important. It's just as important to have that sharp knife.
Ooh, no doubt.
Because once your knife starts dulling and you start ripping at something, that's when you're asking to slip and hurt yourself. So it's critical that it be sharp. And like Eric said, take your time. If you have to switch blades, no big deal. Take your time. Know where your knife is. If you have a partner, you're never cutting towards your partner. Tell your partner to be aware of where your knife is. Never be cutting down towards your leg. Never be cutting towards your own hand. Those types of things. Understand that stuff and make sure that you are doing things under control. Don't go just hacking and whacking and be in a hurry. You're going to, for the time that you think you're making up in, you know, taking that animal apart is going to just slow down anyway when you're packing it out. So you might be able to make it up there. You don't. But like you said, man, those sticks are real important, you know.
I saved my bacon this year.
Mm-hmm.
And it has several times when we've had some rough pack outs. You know, being able, because you got a 200-pound quarter up there on your back, and you know, I'm already 280 pounds. Man, that's a lot of weight coming down through those rocks and everything. And one false move, and you're in bad shape. You know, so I mean, super important to have the right, you know, right skills. And I always take something else too, Joe. I always take a little pair of needle nose. It's a small pair I have, and I put them in my pack for changing blades out too on those knives. Mm-hmm. It's real simple to try and change a Havalon blade or even the outdoor edge knife blade and try to use your hands. But a lot of times the meat gets packed in there and it's hard to get that blade back on there, and you're still handling it with your bare hands. And I'm telling you, it's real simple to slip. I've seen guys do it and cut themselves yourselves really bad just putting the blade back on. So try to, I keep me a little, it's actually a Leatherman tool, and I keep it in my backpack, and it's got a good pair of needle nose on it where I can manipulate those blades as well.
Think about worst case scenario.
Mm-hmm.
Anytime you're doing something, what is the worst case scenario could be that could happen here, and then avoid it. All right.
Yeah.
Avoid those failure points. And last thing we're talking about is meat care. Make sure that you have, plan for success. Plan that you have coolers. You have coolers with ice on them. Get your meat on ice as soon as possible once you have it on there. Now, if it's the type of temperature where you plan on hanging it out and you've got it in bags and it's protected from, dirt and protected from flies and everything like that, no problem, man. As long as it's nice and cool for that. If it's not a situation where it's cool, you need to get it on ice, man, as soon as possible. Yeah. And that's pretty much what we want. It clean. We want it on ice. We want it to get good and cooled down. And now we're good to go, especially if we have multiple people hunting. That way we can keep hunting like that. So
yeah, and if you're out in a whole big, in a place where you can't come down, getting it off that bone will help it cool out a lot quicker, because the meat closest to the bone is the warmest, So if you can get it off that bone, that really helps to cool the meat out.
Yeah, absolutely. Anything?
Don't forget to tag your animal right after you.
Yeah, there you go.
Tag it. You get so busy, and you're like, "Oh crap! I'm hiking out, and I didn't even tag this animal. I'm out." So
for sure. Otherwise, the Do Right Boys may remind you with a little gift.
Well, I hope everybody enjoyed this series.
I know I did.
I think it's just a lot of little stuff for people that are out there, maybe even people that have hunted for a long time might have heard something a little different that they want to try. You never know. We learn something from somebody every year. I learned something from these guys that I'm with. I learned something from the animals that I'm doing this with. And the mountains always teach me something. So we're hoping that this information that we're giving you is going to help each and every one of you, and that this has been a good series for you. So, Gil, that's it for this one.
Man, what an awesome series that we've, there's 4 parts to this series, you guys. Y'all go back and listen to 1, 2, 3, and here we got 4 for you guys. If you like what we're doing, please subscribe, rate, and review us. You got to go to Apple Podcasts or iTunes to review us, and you can check out more elk hunting content at ElkBros.com. And just a reminder, if any of our listeners would like their questions answered on our show, we're giving away stuff for the shout outs and all this other stuff. So y'all get your questions in to have them answered on our show. You can send your questions to info@ElkBros.com. That's info@ElkBros.com. And like we say down here in the Lone Star State, husbands kiss your wives, wives kiss your husbands, hug your babies, keep your broad head sharp and your powder dry. We'll see you next week right here on Blue Collar Elk Hunting.
Whoop, whoop.
And for all our grinders out there, here's some more music from our brother Tony Wintrip to close out the show.
Tony.
Sing it, brother.
Peace, everybody.
See you guys.
I make my living working east of town, late nights in the summer till the sun goes down. I can't stop thinking about how my life's changed, but I'm still the same as I was young. I peeled them bark trees one by one, made a couple of dollars, filled my gas tank once. And I left my high school, barely made it by, but I found my way back. Oh, how time flies, living Northwest wild. Hunting, fishing is my kind of style. I float the Wainuchi when it gets hot. I'm proud of all the things that I've got. I'm digging them moss bags up in the sand, and after work a cold beer in my hand, picking wild berries off God's land, and drinking my buddy's homemade wine, living Northwest wild. changed and it ain't for the good. There's a bunch of new faces in my old neighborhood. And the logging market goes up and down. There used to be a little export in this booming town. I build my freezer from the river and the woods. Kick it back with my old man. Yeah, my life is good. Living Northwest wild. Hunting, fishing is my kind of style. I float the Wainuchi when it gets hot. And I'm proud I own the things that I've got. I'm digging the moss bags up in the sand. And after work, a cold beer in my hand. Picking wild berries off God's land. And drinking my buddy's homemade wine all the time. Living Northwest wild. Living Northwest wild. Hunting, fishing is my kind of style. I'm float the Wainuchi when it gets hot. Yeah, I'm proud I own the things that I've got. I'm digging the moss bags up in the sand. And after work, that cold beer in my hand. Picking wild berries off God's land. I'm floating in the bay now, I'm watching my